G'day everyone. Welcome back to Empires of Europe. This is Fat Rod. So today is the launch of the new version of 1100, which of course includes the transition to the amazing new map, which we can see on screen right now. So this update's been an enormous amount of work. It's easily the biggest update we've ever done. I've been working on this several hours a day, every day since the start of July, so probably a couple of hundred hours of work. So before I get into the content, I'd like to thank a few people. And this is going to be an Oscars speech, so skip ahead if you want. But first off, to the Empires of Europe team, Eric, who's been with me since the beginning and continues to be a huge amount of support, which I really appreciate. Sandypan, who's been instrumental in keeping the mods actually working, particularly when there's a code break or a code issue. Reiko for his ongoing help with research, translations, and of course his awesome expansion that we're now integrating. LSCD, who's a man of many talents, but particularly with banners, and of course his POC mod. The Discord mods, Hicks and Rex, and I'm going to call him an honorary mod, Mad Stalker, for all his help on the forum. Then also some people outside of Empires of Europe, and the first is Lemmy. Even though we are moving away from his map, without him and the work he's done, there would be no Empires of Europe. So thank you, Lemmy, for getting us this far. The next person is Levante from the Burning Empires mod. This new map is actually his. He created it for the ancient Roman period, and a huge thank you to him for allowing me to use it and change it to suit my needs. I'd also like to thank the teams from Eagle Rising, Tides of War, and AD 1259. We actually all talk and collaborate on a regular basis, which is really valuable for me, but I think for all of our mods. So thanks to the guys for working together, and Alexander Drakos for bringing us all together. And the last person I want to call out is Litauen from Eastern Europe 1259. His modding documentation is absolutely invaluable. Those documents have saved me so much time, particularly with troubleshooting. So huge thank you for everything that he has done for the community. So with that, let's get into the updates. So we'll start off with the map, and I'll highlight some of the key benefits just while we're scrolling through some scenic views here. The first thing is that I've got full control of the map, so I can make whatever changes I need to, as well as do whatever I want with the settlements. So this map is a lot more accurate geographically, and the result is that the settlements I've chosen are completely different to what we had with Europe Campaign map. We've also got a lot more of the historical capitals in different regions, but also a lot less castles. And the reason for this is because when I was choosing between an important town or castle for a given area, I thought it was more important to have the town. So there's a lot less castles, which will also mean a lot less cavalry. Where there are castles, they're often in strategic areas. Like if we take a look at Bavaria, we have 3 castles all in a row here, guarding the north and southern regions on either side of the rivers. So this would be a really strategic area to control. The other big changes are to the economy. So every town only has one main food source. So expect there to be a lot less food in the world. I wanted to avoid that situation where certain towns have thousands of food stores after a year or two. So that's not going to happen anymore. Prosperity for all towns starts at 2,500, with the exception of a couple of the large capitals. And village hearth starts at 500, which is quite high. So this means that your towns will have room to grow, but your villages are already wealthy. It also means, though, if your main food village is raided, you're going to be in trouble pretty quickly. Bandit hideouts. So there is a lot more bandit hideouts on the map now, and I've increased the number of bandit factions from 5 to 10, which will double the amount of bandits on the map. I've also implemented new hideout scenes from the scene design contest, and some of these are really nice. Like if we take a look at the one here, which actually ends up being in a town, it's really cool. The last thing to mention for the map is that there's no more ports or fleets. Boats are now an automatic function, there's certain bodies of water that you can cross, and it's as simple as when you traverse on the water, your map icon turns into a boat. So it's nice and simple. You can see where the crossings are either by boats going back and forth, like we can see here, or if there's a jetty on either side, like we can see here in the English Channel. So the next major update is the integration of Reiko's Eastern expansion. This, of course, is an awesome submod that he's created, which greatly enhances the gameplay and the experience in Eastern Europe and the Baltic areas. We've actually talked about doing this for a while, and the transition to the new map seemed like the right time to do it. So what we've got is a bunch of additional cultures, factions, clans, lords, and several new troop trees, which all look really good. If we just take a look at some of the troop trees here, they're quite unique with some great armor combinations and an interesting mix of light, heavy, and different skirmisher units as well. So it'll be interesting to recruit some of these and see how they go. If we take a look at the factions and the settlements now, first thing you'll notice is there's a large number of settlements. And Reiko's done an amazing job researching, what existed at the time and putting together these historical regions. It's quite obviously a lot more dense than what the West is. Like if we zoom in a bit, this is now adding the castles. And if I zoom a bit further, we can now see the villages. So there's quite a lot. But I'm okay with this because all the factions here are a lot smaller than their Western counterparts. So the strength is relative. They're all actually, not as strong as major Western kingdoms, which is probably where it should be. But also the map is so big now that you're probably going to end up just playing in specific regions. And if you choose to play in Eastern Europe, for example, it's going to be a different kind of experience to the West or to the Levant or something like that, which I quite like. I think people will end up just playing in specific regions. So the next update is the new scenes for towns, castles, villages, tournaments, and hideouts. And we'll start off with the tournaments, and shout out to Snorri, who has let me integrate his arenas extended scenes. So what we have is new tournament scenes for every region on the map. And I've chosen the ones that I felt were more suited to the time period. So for example, in Western Europe, we have the jousting field, which we'll take a look at here. Whereas in Greece and Italy, for example, we have this smaller Roman-style arena, but still much smaller than what the old ones were. We'll take a look at some of the villages now. These have also come from the scene design contest, and again, I've chosen the ones that are more region-specific, but also have a bit of flavour, like this Western Europe style scene here. It's got townsfolk running around and there's a lot more things going on, which is quite cool. For towns and castles, what I've done is gone through all the vanilla scenes and picked out the most appropriate or the best ones for each region. There's actually 53 town scenes and 23 castle scenes in vanilla. But Europe Map didn't use very many of them. So even though I'm using those vanilla assets, there's going to be a lot of ones that people have never seen before. So it's going to spice it up a bit. It's going to look a lot more interesting and feel quite different to what it did before. So next is the integration of Ulfkarl's Mordhau Voices. So thanks to Ulfkarl for letting me integrate this awesome mod. It's relatively small, but it makes a huge difference to the immersion of the battles. So what it does is it introduces a bunch of voices and sound effects from the Mordau game, which creates a much better level of immersion during the battles. So we'll have a look at this here. We'll have a listen. And what you'll notice is your troops are saying all different sorts of things, which will make it feel a lot more alive versus vanilla. So yeah, pretty cool. He's got some other sound mods like this. I'm kind of going through them and making a decision if I want to change more of the sound effects, but for now we'll just start with the voices. So the last big thing we'll cover off is changes to the custom spawns functionality. So first of all, mercenary clans will now stay aligned to their cultural or religious factions. So for example, the Banu Tay here will always be at war with the Christian nations. And the Brabancons, by comparison, will always be at war with the Muslim factions. And then someone like the Assassins, they will always be at war with everyone. I've also restricted some clans from ever joining a faction. So the Genoese, for example, will always stay independent, and they will not join anyone as a mercenary. The last big update is a change to the crusade and jihad mechanics. So instead of spawning 2 large armies, it will now spawn 10 smaller ones with 200 to 250 men each. Once the spawning event starts, it'll spawn more armies every day until it reaches a max of 10. So it's the same number of troops overall, same size armies overall, but they spawn smaller groups and a bit slower. So that'll keep happening until the armies are wiped out. And then after they are wiped out, there should be a much longer cooldown until the next event happens. So by making these armies smaller, they're able to travel a lot faster, and they should also avoid getting stuck, say in front of Antioch and blocking anyone from getting in. It also means they're going to fight a lot more often, fighting either enemy lords or fighting their opposing armies. So the Levant is going to see a lot more action once these crusade events start at day 100. I haven't done a huge amount of testing with this yet, but if it works well, I want to try and replicate it on other parts of the map. So for example, in Spain, we could have a Reconquista event, maybe in Ireland with the Viking invasions, and then anywhere else where it's worth trying to replicate a historical conflict. Okay, so that's it for this video. There's a lot more updates and bug fixes, but in the interest of time, I'll just flash those up on screen. Like I said at the start, this is a massive update, and a huge amount of work has gone into it. But I think the mod is it's going to perform a lot better now, and it's starting to feel a lot more polished, I think. So after a short break, I'm then going to start working on the transition of 1700 over to the new map. That update is going to be just as big, if not bigger, than this one. But thankfully, a lot of the heavy lifting has already been done. So with that, thanks for all the support, everyone. I hope everyone enjoys what we've been able to put together. And we'll see you next time.